Right. Come on in. We're ready to get started. Those of you who are here, well done. You have apparently escaped the flu, or you have it, and you're among us. So I think we're in the middle of a raging flu epidemic at the moment, but come on in if you're going to join us for the meeting. Violating all of my principles. We have a screen and a projector. So don't get any ideas. So we talked about this a lot over the past months, that our vision as a church is to see Northeast Georgia and the world shaped by the gospel of Jesus Christ, and our mission is to do that by making disciples of Jesus who faithfully respond to his call, come and follow me, right? Well, we need space to do that. Space to worship as one family. This two services thing, which we've been doing, is necessary, but it is not how we're designed. It's not what we desire. We would rather worship as one family. Space to welcome Northeast Georgia and the world. Space to disciple our children, our teenagers, each other. And space to grow healthy enough and large enough, I guess, to be able to send out other churches. If you may know this, we're the only church of our denomination in about 5 counties. Still has been from day one on our screen to plant churches in the surrounding counties. Got to have space to get to a point where we can do that. And of course, space where we can come together, hear the word preached, sing, take the sacraments. We know that buildings aren't everything, and we are never interested in building for the sake of building. We build only to help us carry out the vision and the mission that God's called us to in this part of the world. So, with that in mind, our building team is ready to present our plans to you. This is not a new thing. We've been working on this for many years now. Since we moved into this building, we started thinking about what might need to happen next. We had a plan that was drawn, and we showed it to you at the Vision Dinner last winter, if you were there. COVID, destroyer of dreams, right? That's what happened to all of our building plans. What we had designed was beautiful, and it was going to stretch us financially, and then COVID happened, and it put it out of the range of possibility. It put it in the realm of, this is no longer stretching, this is now foolish. So we need to go back, scrap that, and start over again, which we've spent the last year and a half as a session and as elders doing. Also, I mean, you've noticed the growth. You noticed the growth in our children's ministry. April told me recently that within the past year alone, we have like 23 new children in 1 year in the children's wing. Such that, I mean, you've seen we had to move our offices out. So we have these space issues. It's time to do something. So here's what we have drawn. And these plans are economically much more reasonable. They allow us to accomplish our goals in terms of the size that we desire to get before we begin to plant other churches. And we're excited to present them to you and now to get your feedback. So here is a look. Right there is the end of this building, and right there is the other end. Okay, so this is what we currently have. So what we're proposing is to add 40 feet this way for worship space, 40 feet, give or take, this way in a 3-story building, 1, 2, and then there's a basement level on this end, and to extend our kind of covered entryway as well. So that's a general look of the outside. It's pretty close to what it will actually look like. We didn't want, when you're dealing with a metal building and extending it, what you don't want it to look like is what Habersham County knows too much about. You don't want it to look like a giant chicken house, right? So we hired a good architect that has done a good job to give us a balanced look, consistent with what we already have, and wood, stone. And the other thing to note is that the exterior will no longer be metal. We'll change that to an actual, hardy siding or something like that. So it will look different than it currently does. So let's, I can show you a couple more views here. There's a front view. Again, the only things that change there on the front, this will be significantly bigger, larger stone pillars there in the front, a 2-car covered entry. We think that's going to work. And then here on the side, the bell tower is not just a bell tower. That is the elevator shaft. because it's a 3-story building, you have to have an elevator. So we needed a place to put it. And, of course, this actually gives us a little bit of a look that now it looks like a church rather than just an industrial complex, right? And then here's the view from the other side. So there'll be another entryway for the offices. That will be an exit on Sundays, and I'll explain why in a minute. Top story is offices. Middle story is children's classrooms. Bottom story is youth space plus storage. And you can see there's some lighting that we hope to get in there. So yeah, that's the exterior. If you like floor plans, this is going to be complicated, but here you go. Just to kind of hit the high spots here, this worship space will extend this way just like it looks now for the most part. And the seating capacity, right now we can put 300 chairs in here. That will have 516 chairs. Now, don't think that we're going to be a church of 500. This church feels full when there are 220 people in it. Okay, so 516 chairs. Once we start hitting right around 400, it will feel full, right? So, and that'll be about time that we start thinking about planting a church. A larger stage, deeper, larger kitchen area, larger mechanical room here. The gathering space is just like it is, except we get rid of this large storage room, which is currently here. Open that up. Make some gathering space here. Make this larger. Just for children's space, this is the size of our current classrooms. So notice the size difference in all of the others. So the flow of children's traffic, you'll come in here, gather, go into worship here. There's one entry point for the children's check-in and with a double door. And once you're in, it's locked down. This is an exit only on Sundays. Okay? New bank of bathrooms, and you can see some stuff. You can ask any questions about this too. And then stairwell to the upper level, elevator shaft here. That's kind of the general floor plan. Again, you can only see so much in detail here. Here's a floor plan of the upstairs. You come upstairs, there's gathering space, reception, offices. I mean, it's an office, so it looks like one, right? Yeah, so that's the pictures. Let's see, we'll go back to, nope, this way. Go back to that one, I suppose, for now. So the process at this point, we're ready to contract with a builder. The same folks that built this building, we're going to most likely hire them to build our extension. We did talk to another builder, got them to discuss pricing with us, and just felt like it was not only cheaper, but we know the folks who built this building. They did a good job. We'll go with them again. Grading, hopefully starting this spring, Lord willing. That's about the earliest we could get started. Construction getting started this summer. That's about the earliest we could get started. Again, these plans are all subject to change. It'll take 8 months to a year to finish the construction, so you're looking at being done the following summer. Interruptions to our service. We've been told by our builder that maybe we won't have to have any interruptions to our service. We should all assume that we will have interruptions to our service, okay? If you know anything about building, I'm the son of a builder. They love making promises. I was one. We love making promises. But so we're working out some plans for that, especially depending on the timing. If many of you know, we spend a lot of time in the good old aquatic center. We'll go back to the gym and set up chairs for a month or so if we have to. We'll also talk to some schools and see if we can get in on a temporary basis to buy us some time. Worst case scenario is we talk to another church and we meet in the afternoons for a month or so. There will likely be interruptions, but we'll have a plan in place for that with plenty of announcement and getting ready for that. So that's the process and where we're at in it. Financing. Let's talk about money. Through your giving and God's mercy to us, our church is in great financial shape. Without asking, without trying to raise money over the past several years, we currently have $1 million ready to go into a building. We have that. It's sitting there. That's God's amazing provision for us. We expect that this will be about a $3 million total project. That includes grading, paving, furnishing, furniture, all that kind of thing, and the building itself. So that's, Lord willing, that's a little higher than what it will actually be, but we're going to raise toward with a little bit of a buffer, assuming that we, if you've tried to build anything over the past 2 years, you know the wisdom of putting in a buffer because building materials are subject to change. So our expectation is about $3 million. We have $1 million available. We will need to raise right around $2 million, which seems daunting, and yet God has provided for us. This building was provided for us by the Lord with no financing. We paid for it. We're trusting that that's the direction that we can go this time around. That's what we desire. All of our elders and deacons do not want to have any kind of mortgage. If it ends up that we need to finance a small amount to finish or to get a line of credit to finish, yeah, certainly we're open to doing something that's reasonable and doesn't put our church in a bind financially. But we don't want to have a giant mortgage that we're kind of strapped with for the next 30 years, that kind of thing. So that is the financing. And we will have commitment cards for you. Again, the way that this works is we don't fund buildings through the budget. We fund ministry through the budget. Right? Our normal tithes and offerings, we fund the ministry of the church through that. Buildings are always extra over and above. And so we'll have commitment cards for you to prayerfully consider how you might be a part of this in your own giving. And we'll stretch that out over a couple of years. You can commit to an amount this year, next year, and potentially the next. And we'll have those passed out. I think Keith or Avery, one of you guys will pass those out in a moment. But anyway, let me see if I've missed anything. Probably. So that's the financing side of things. And that's where our commitment to you is to keep you informed about our progress, where we're at along the way, where we're at with fundraising, and to answer questions that you have. And at this point, we're ready for some feedback from you. If you have thoughts, concerns, questions, now is the time to voice them. We do want to hear from you. We're not just doing this. This is the work that we've done kind of in good faith, hoping that this gets us the space that we need to carry out our mission and vision. But this is something that we have to own together as a church. There is no, this is what the elders are doing, and we're just kind of, tagging along. No. We're all doing this together. So, yeah. Our building team, let me introduce you to them. It is Keith Loveland back there with the vest. Drew Jones, is he here? Drew Jones over here. And then Luke Williams, is he here? They had the flu, so I suspect he's not. But Luke Williams is also on there. Luke's also our civil engineer, so he's helping us with all the site planning and all that. But at this point, we're ready for a little bit of Q&A time. And I can field those, or Keith and Drew can field those as well. But we have a microphone. Avery, you got that? Steve's got it. If you have questions, now's the time to ask them. We'll give it a shot. Fire away. Everyone is firmly convinced that this is the right plan. Everybody's fully on board. There's no issue. All right, we got a question here. Oh, Amy.
How wide are the doorways going to be?
How wide will the doorways be? Which doorways do you mean?
Both the outside and the indoor ones, just for sake of people with wheelchairs or crutches or things. I know it can be difficult for them to fit through like normal doorways sometimes.
Great question. So the question is how you heard it. We have a microphone. So right now we have just a double door at the front. It's likely that we'll have to have two double doors. Again, if you have a larger capacity for worship, you kind of have to have more entryway space. But there are rules and what do they call it? Building codes that dictate all of that specifically for special needs and handicap access, that kind of thing. So all of that will be according to code. So nothing will be smaller than it currently is. It'll be as wide or potentially wider because of the influx of people. Yeah. Whoever's next.
Is there a point of giving to the building campaign before you will start, or is it going to start?
Good question. We do have enough to probably go ahead and start making some plans, like lining up the grader. We feel like we could go ahead and get started, but that's part of the reason, the commitment card thing is for you and it's for us in terms of information. It helps us know where we stand. So you'll have about a month to figure out how much you're planning to give prayerfully. And once we get that back and kind of see where we stand, that will help us dictate when we get started and if we need to take more time to do fundraising, which we will do if we need to. But because we have such a sizable portion ready to go ahead and get rolling, my guess is we wouldn't be delayed, but anything's possible. So that'll be a little bit of a wait and see kind of thing.
Hey, you mentioned that the kitchen will be larger. What kind of kitchen are we talking about? Are we going to have more of a commercial-sized kitchen, something that's going to have capability of hosting events or
Yeah.
our own
Good question.
things here?
So the current kitchen we have is a closet with a refrigerator in it. So we will have more than that. So we're not a church that necessarily is going to do the giant commercial every Wednesday night dinner. It's great if churches want to do that, but we're not really built for that at the moment. We tend to do more potluck and catered type things. We will have a larger kitchen area, and it's likely that we'll outfit it so that we can cook for small events and have plenty of space for catering and warming shelves for larger events that we do in this space. So it won't be a commercial kitchen, but it will be a larger, kind of what we would call a warming kitchen, but with greater capacity to actually cook and host smaller events, if that makes sense. That's what we're planning for now. Gary?
Yes, I have two questions, actually, and one concerns the parking. Will you make provision for more parking?
Yes, we will. There's a good bit of dirt over here that'll be gone and made into parking. This entire front area that's now grass will be turned into a parking lot. So we kind of understand when we bought the land, we knew that it was going to lock us into a certain size of church, and we have to maximize the space. And so the parking, we'll maximize it without getting rid of the big trees on the front side. You know, we like those. We like to keep them. So.
Okay, my second question concerns whether you plan to return to one service or will we continue two services?
We will go back to one service with the new expansion, Lord willing. If we need to go to, again, if we get big enough where we need to go to two services with the expansion, we'll do that until we plant a church and launch some of you to another location. That's kind of the long-term plan is to not, we have no desire to, it's ridiculous to say that we could become a megachurch. That just sounds, we're in Habersham County, people, come on, you know. But, and I know the preacher, we're not becoming a megachurch, right? But I do think that if we do get too large, I mean, it's time for us to send churches out. So our desire has always been to be one service, one family. Even now, you feel it. I mean, with two services, it already begins to feel like two churches, and that's not something that we desire. Stephanie?
Yes, you mentioned briefly in passing that there would be an entranceway and a specified exit way. Can you speak,
Yes.
is that more about safety and security?
Yep.
Or what's the function of that?
The function of that is security. So we know that our children's wing, which is everything from here back, needs to be secure. We can't just have anybody coming in, and so this, on Sunday mornings, we'll have a large entry here. Now, there's fire exits everywhere, right? I mean, back here, this is an exit, this is an exit, this is an exit. But the people flow will be, everybody comes in here to service or to the children's wing. This double door is locked. This door is locked, exit only. So that's to control people flow and to make sure that nobody comes into our children's wing that should not be there. So, good question. We got some over here.
Hobie, Lat asked me to ask this.
My son asked
Yes,
this? Oh,
yes.
boy.
Will the playground be expanded and improved?
It's a great
Just
question.
want to make sure.
It would be a giant indoor playground. No. No, there's no plan to move the playground. It'll be there. I don't know that it'll be expanded. Potentially, though, that's page 2. We're page 1, but there's no plan to get rid of it. It'll stay where it's at for now. So, yeah, good question.
My question is about the youth area. I've been in many churches where the youth are regulated to the basement and often as a dark cave-like
That's what we're going for.
situation.
Yeah.
And I'm just concerned that they have light and, regular sized ceilings.
We like to keep our youth just kind of out of sight, out of mind. No, so they've drawn this a little bit. So this is a rendering, so it's not accurate. But the plan is to have kind of what we would call like high level windows. I don't know, there's a word for those. One of you probably knows it. But not only on this side, but potentially on the back side as well, to provide some natural lighting. Because we don't want it to be cavernous and dark. The other thing is that our youth might use that for like Sunday morning Sunday school, but they do their larger time at night, and they would probably continue as they are now to just use the space up top, is my guess.
And there will be a fire exit out of that basement?
Yep. There'll be at least one staircase, if not two, plus the elevator. So yeah, everything will be according to code on that. So, other questions? Sarah? Oh, Sarah, you're next. Steve promises.
This is probably a question more so for Steve. It's not the building specifically, but as we get larger, what are y'all talking about in terms of ensuring that we're still creating a close-knit environment, even if we expand to fill this new expansion space?
That's the question, isn't it, Savannah? No, that is the question as the church gets bigger, is how do you maintain the sense of family, the sense of connection and community? And we have experienced as a church, we used to be a church of 50 to 100, and you feel like a family. You know everybody. We're not that now. We're bigger now, and you don't know everybody. So you already feel that tension a little bit. That will continue as we get bigger, and yet being in worship together is a good thing, I think, A. And B, the expansion of our community groups and small group options, that's the model that we have at the moment. And that, as you get bigger, your small group community has to become more important, right? More buy-in, everybody kind of connected at a smaller level. And that's not just community groups, it's small group Bible studies, it's discipleship groups, that kind of thing. But so as we grow in number, we will also grow structurally in the opportunities that we have for those kind of smaller group connections. So yeah, but that's the challenge for any church that gets bigger, is how do you stay connected? So the church can provide you with the opportunities and trained leaders, but at the same time, that's something that you also have to take on yourself and say, I am going to stay connected. I'm going to find community here, and it's a real challenge. Yeah.
I was wondering about, back to the space thing. I don't see any small rooms like conference-size rooms or for smaller breakout adult Sunday school classes or anything that, like if there are things where you want to gather but not use the whole auditorium for a small group of people.
Great question. So in the children's wing itself, my guess is that a few of these rooms could be repurposed for smaller gatherings, but really, so there's a conference room here, there's a small group gathering space here, and the youth room downstairs will not just be a designated youth room. That is a smaller room that could be used for that kind of gathering. So there are some rooms on the site that will be used for multi-purpose, smaller gatherings. But we were locked into what we could have. I mean, our list of needs versus our list of wants. The list of wants took some hits, and one of the hits that it took was to have, like adult Sunday school or adult small group gathering spaces. We have some of those that we can create and use, but there's not a ton of those. So my guess is that we use the sanctuary like we have historically done, and we'll use some of these rooms in the offices for small group Sunday school type things, and of course the downstairs as well. So, others? Robert.
What needs have taken a hit?
Good. Projection voice. What needs have taken a hit? Oh, let's see. Drew?
The pool that Hobie wanted.
Suffering for the kingdom. No pool. Our mahogany jet, No, the things that have taken it. So in the building that we had designed for the front corner, we had ample. So the upstairs was worship space only, not multipurpose. We would still have this building for our multipurpose space, And so that was going to be a much nicer finish with, it would feel a lot more kind of formal worship, The current building will look, or the new build-out will look exactly like this does, which is great. But like that's something that we had to change our thinking on. The downstairs had adult Sunday school rooms that we've had to get rid of for this particular plan. And then there's some aesthetic things, but we haven't given up a ton. That's the beauty of this plan, is it does allow us to have essentially the same amount of space with minimal cuts. But we have given up some aesthetics, and we've given up, just the sense that we have this other building over here that we use for certain things, and then we have this is where we do our Sunday morning stuff. I mean, that was the direction we were heading for 4 years. And then we had to reverse courses, which again, that's fine. I mean, our brothers and sisters meet under a tree in Africa. We don't need the nice stuff. It's okay. We can do the economic move. Allie? Yeah, sure. Right, so that's the size of one of our current classrooms. You'll walk in the double doors. These rooms are giant. So we'll use those as we need for whichever group has the largest amount of kids, probably. There's designated nursery space here. This is a classroom. You'll walk on through. You've got 3 larger rooms. These have a shared bathroom right there. That's what that is, if you can see it. Here's another bank of bathrooms here and another classroom. So, we're essentially taking what we're currently doing and just expanding it. There are more rooms, and they're larger. So that should enable us to have, enough space for all the. So what we did is we took what if we do become a church of 400 to 450? How many kids would we likely have? And what kind of square footage do kids need? So we took those formulas, and this fits that. So if that makes sense. But there is a flexibility there such that we have a small room, we have giant rooms, we have middle-sized rooms. That gives us a lot of freedom to move around as we need to.
And maybe you could show them on there where the existing walls are right now, because they put that in there for us so we can see for scale.
So this is the existing wall. This is the back wall of the children's wing. So this is all new. And then the existing wall of the current worship space is right here, I think. Something like that. The other thing to note is that we have these big windows here. The additional worship space, the windows will actually be larger, taller. So we value the natural lighting. So we want that. It's not related to your question. William, you got a microphone?
I really applaud your practical expansion. What would the new building would it have cost versus the savings we're having here? It's just estimated.
Hold on to your seat. $8 million.
So we're saving $5 billion basically doing this.
Yes.
Fantastic.
That's a full build out if we got everything that we wanted. It would have knocked right around that number. Which is why, initially, think of it, COVID doubled building prices, essentially. So it was going to be a $4 million building, which was going to stretch us, and there was question of it, can we do that? And we weren't even settled on that, and then COVID happened, and then we started pricing it and realized, oh, well, that settles it. Can't do it, Yes?
So where the addition, where the children are, so underneath there in the basement, is it going to be laid out similar to what we're seeing here?
No, it'll be it'll really just have one, this is hypothetical, but this is as far as we've gotten, one divider. So a lot of that space needs to be storage because we don't really have a ton built in. So there'll be storage, and then the other whole half of the room will be one large room. We will go ahead and rough in plumbing for potential bathrooms and any kind, if we need to change the build out of that at a future date, we have the ability to do it. But it'll just be one divided room with storage and youth currently. Others? Andrea?
You're planning to do this all at the same time? It's not going to be in stages, is that correct? As
Correct.
far as the
Well,
actual building?
Yes, we will do it so the big important thing is that this project be managed in such a way that it provides minimal interruption to our Sunday worship and children's stuff. So from that perspective, we'll probably start on one end, and I'm not exactly sure how they'll manage it. You hire a builder that hopefully can do that for you, but it won't be staged in terms of multi-year. Like, we'll do this all within about an 8-month to 12-month span. Lord willing.
That was what I was going to ask. Is there a projected completion date, obviously, with some flexibility?
With a ton of flexibility. Probably the earliest we could get it done is a year from this summer. Does that make sense? So we get
Summer of '24.
Summer of 24, yes.
Thank you.
Is my guess. It could be earlier than that, but
I know, we're going to hold you to that, I know.
yeah. Other questions?
I don't have a question, I have a comment.
Comment away.
For those of us who have been here since Kennedy Smart, we stand amazed at what God has done for this church.
Yeah.
And we are thankful for Ken Dahl, Bill Horton, who chose not to close the doors of this church, and we give God the glory for that. And for you and Steve, we thank you for your leadership.
Thank you. Appreciate that. That is true, though. God was gracious to Ken and Bill and those who were here in the beginning 11 years ago. God's been very kind. And I don't know that we should be surprised by that, but it's still surprising when you see God's mercy. Any other questions? The baptistry is with my mahogany jet.
For that one.
Someone asked already where the fog machines are on the sides. So, Savannah?
This is a really kind of nitpicky question, but in the kids' wing, the doors, are they going to be standard doors? Because I know several moms have mentioned this. I'm obviously invested in this since I'm baking the next CPC member. Having some type of like window or something so moms can peek in, because right now the option is they have to full-blown open the door, baby sees mom, chaos ensues.
We are going to try as hard as we possibly can to have like a Dutch door situation so that there is that freedom you've got security, but you've also got the ability to interact. That's on the list. High on the list, yeah. Yeah. Any other questions? All right. Great. Well, okay, so housekeeping. You do not need to turn in your commitment cards today. You've got until around December 4th to do that. We'd rather you take some time and consider and process that with your, if you have a significant other or before the Lord as well. But get those back to us at some point. If you hand them to me, that's fine. Fold it. I don't really want to see any numbers. I want to hand that to our building team who can handle that. They'll kind of process all of that. But Drew and Keith, wherever he is, Keith, and Luke Williams and myself, we are available to field any comments or questions that you have at any point along the way. So thank you for being here. And that's pretty good. 5 minutes until the 11:15 service. Thanks.